Hi guys, so today's video is going to be my Oathbringer book chat. Just as a disclaimer, it is a book chat, not a book review, so there is going to be pretty much just the entire video is going to be spoilers. This is obviously a massive book and there's just so much to talk about, but because the primary focus of the character's past in this one was Dalinar's, I want to talk about him and his past first. Because Dalinar has been referenced so often as being the Blackthorn, I loved getting to see who he was back then. When I was reading this though, and I got to the part where it was kind of unclear whether he killed that little boy, I was like, no, if he killed that kid, like, I can't root for him. It's one thing if it was a battle and that happened, but to have him just be right there with this little boy crying and kill him, I was like, please, Dalinar, please don't actually have done it. And then when you find out later he didn't do it, so relieved, because that would have been pretty tough for me to get over. It was really sad to see how broken of a person he was. There was the moment when Adolin was born and that part was really moving and it was like, oh, is this gonna be a turning point? Is he finally gonna have more humanity? Because Evie wasn't getting that out of him, and then he kind of just reverted back to being who he was when he had to start fighting again. Also, just him and Evie in general made me so sad, because it's kind of like that cliche of the girl trying to change the guy, but just to the extreme and in a way where she couldn't really do anything about it. This was her husband, she was a good wife, and it was just awful to see their relationship the way it was. A scene where she was crying and just saying, like, the women here are mean to me, they treat me like I'm stupid, everything is a game to you, nothing's ever genuine. It was so sad. I was like, I feel so bad for Evie. And then when she died, oh man, I was broken inside a little bit, and he thought, like, storming woman and like, this is your fault, why did you do this, and everything. And obviously in that moment he's in denial, and it was just I just was like, no, like, I need you to understand that you messed up, Dalinar, come on. When Renarin comes in and he just wants to like make his dad feel better, and Dalinar breaks down and just holds Renarin. That scene, man, it just got me. I did really love seeing more of him with Yasna, and I loved that when Gavilar died, how he went to Yasna and she read Way of Kings to him, and that moment was just, it really shows the similarities between the two of them. Also, I really think Dalinar's relationship with Navani was interesting, because you start learning more about Evie. I was like, no, like, she was kind of mean. She said she was dull, and like, I'm really protective of Evie because she's just so sweet. And I think that moment when he starts to remember everything and then he's kind of having a breakdown a little bit and she has to take over with the coalition, even though she's mad at him, she also knows that he's going to be there for her if she has something like this happen. And I loved that scene, one, because I loved how it showed their relationship and the maturity of both of those characters, but I also just, as somebody who is married, I think that that's a really wonderful thing to see in their marriage. And of course, another really monumental relationship in Dalinar's life in the present is him with the Stormfather. I really enjoyed seeing how Dalinar somewhat humanizes the Stormfather. He's starting to understand humans and how they think, and they sympathize and they grieve. And also, I really love when the Stormfather, you find out that he can show those visions to anybody. Like, what the heck, man? Like, you could have told Dalinar that earlier. I really loved how all of this came together, how Dalinar's pain and his grief and everything came together, the thrill, so that he could face Odium. Speaking of the battles, that's actually the part I want to segue into next. The battle for Kholinar, I think, was my favorite part of the book. I'm a huge fan of Kaladin, and I loved that the hardships of battle were shown through his eyes, because I think he's the person that can really understand that better than any of the other characters. And, you know, throughout the beginning when he was with the Parshmen and he was seeing their cause and understanding it and sympathizing with it, and then when he sees Saw in battle and Saw dies, and then Beard from Walgard, he sees him die, and then Ellicar. Ugh, that part though, that just tore me apart. I knew, I was like, somebody's gonna have to die soon, because this is a Sanderson book and there hasn't really been anybody really dying yet. And when it was Ellicar, I was like, no, I didn't want him to die at that moment. Sanderson, you finally got me, like, totally rooting for Ellicar. And just the way he dies holding his child and everything, and just what really bothered me was when Moash gave Kaladin the Bridgeforce salute. I was like, man, no, like, you suck. Not to be like encouraging violence or anything, but somebody needs to kill that guy already. I never liked Moash. When Kaladin was like, he's probably like my best friend because he's the only one that doesn't treat me with respect, basically. But it's like, dude, you are straight up bad. You're a bad person, and somebody needs to take him out already. Anyway, getting back to the Battle of Kholinar, I also want to mention, because Shallan had such a big part with her reconnaissance, I really loved how it just didn't really work out for her. What I mean is, in Wars of Radiance, everything kind of goes right for her. Like, she gets involved with the Ghostbloods, she kills Tin when Tin turns on her, but she learns just enough from Tin before she dies. Even her earlier in Oathbringer with the Unmaiden Yurthiru, that whole thing went well for her too, so it was nice that this time around when she went to the Corrupted Oathgate, it didn't work well for her. That was important because Shallan was starting to be able to do whatever, and it was nice that for once, none of them made it out. They lost that battle, which was awful, but at the same time, sometimes we need those moments, because then the battle for Thaylen City is just that much more monumentous. Shifting now to the Battle of Thaylen City, I mean, this was the fight. This was, you know, in the end of Words of Radiance, there's the battle with Szeth, which nothing gets cooler. There will not be a cooler moment in a book than when Kaladin arrives to fight Szeth, but the Battle of Thaylen City had some pretty awesome moments. I love Jasnah, and seeing her do work in that battle was so cool because she's does awesome stuff. She was just kicking butt. And then how the battle, at least with Amaram, how it ends where it wasn't Kaladin that killed him, but it was Rock. It was sad, even though, you know, this is supposed to be a moment where, like, yes, I hate Amaram, you know, it's a moment that you're supposed to be happy that someone took him out and someone for once saves Kaladin. It was sad because Rock just wants to be peaceful Rock with his family and cook his stew. Of course, can't talk about the book without talking about my boys at Bridge 4 and girls now, which is really fun. I really enjoyed everything to do with Bridge 4. I loved getting to see the other characters a little more, and especially with Teft. That was sad. It was nice too, we didn't just see that it was Teft that struggled. I mean, Scar was feeling like he was never going to be really a part of Bridge 4 because he didn't think he would be able to take in Stormlight, and seeing how Sigzil just feels so out of place. And then of course Rock. Rock I think was my favorite perspective to see in Bridge 4. His family, I was so happy because we need those moments every now and then. We need those happy moments, and Rock getting to see his family again was really sweet. I gotta talk a little bit about Kaladin also because Kaladin is the man. I really loved at the very beginning when he goes back to see his family, that part, oh my gosh. And when he has the little brother and he's crying and just, cause Kaladin, when Kaladin cries, like we all cry. I didn't actually cry, but I was like so emotional for him, and I love that Kaladin punched Rashon. I also thought it was great that after punching Rashon, he has a moment of maturity when he recognizes, like, you are not the primary concern of the world anymore, and so you are not my primary concern. He's definitely growing, and he's definitely maturing, and I think a large part of that is his relationship with Syl. I love Kaladin, but just him and Syl together, I think, are one of my absolute favorite duos. When they were in Shadesmar, and she was like a human, basically, that moment where Kaladin is sad and she just wraps her arms around him and says, like, her cheek against his neck and stuff. It's not anything romantic. I think it's really beautiful. I love their relationship, and I loved seeing them, his protective side of her when the other Honors Bren were holding her captive and everything. Just their relationship is great. Her telling Cal, like, I know people need each other. They look pretty happy when I go under their locked doors. Kaladin's like, don't creep on the Syl, that's creepy. Like, that whole part was hilarious. And then later when Pattern was talking about, like, oh, mating, when Shallan is alone with Adolin and stuff. There needs to be some kind of, like, weird fan fiction of Syl and Pattern, like, teaching some kind of course on reproduction or something. It could be, like, you know, sex with Syl and, like, positions with Pattern. As much as I loved this book because it's fantastic, there were a few things I feel like either I would have liked more of, or I feel like maybe could have been made into a bigger deal. There's a few at the end. One is, as much as I love that Szeth switched sides, they kind of just hopped on board with that idea real fast. Basically, Szeth came to Dalinar unafraid and apparently told him, like, yeah, I'm on your side now. And he's like, alright, you'll be my bodyguard then. Also, Taravangian, at the end, when he basically admits to Dalinar, like, I kind of sort of saw out Szeth. And then, you know, they kind of just say, like, oh, well, Dalinar can't be that suspicious of us. I'm like, shouldn't he, like, be really suspicious of you guys? Another thing that I thought was going to be a much bigger deal was Jasnah being revealed as alive. Especially, like, I don't remember there even really being much of an interaction between Yasna and Elhokar, and they're brother and sister. I forget they're brother and sister sometimes because of like, that should have been a huge moment, and Elhokar should have been like, my sister's back, thank goodness, because she's way smarter than me. I also thought it was going to be a much bigger deal when Shallan found out that Kaladin's actually the person that killed Halloran, and I thought it would have been a thing that was addressed between the two of them, but instead, I mean, she was really forgiving of it, which I was kind of glad for. I didn't want it to be this thing where she held it against him because he was just a soldier being a soldier. But I thought it was going to be a little bit bigger of a deal. And with Shallan and then Adolin, I was thinking like we would actually see their wedding, and it's just kind of like, I'm nervous, and then she sees her brothers, and then it's like, now I'm ready, and then we go to Dalinar, and he's like, my son's married now. Now I gotta get into the thing that I feel like is kind of what everybody's thinking about, which is the like kind of sort of love triangle between Kaladin and Shallan and Adolin. Obviously, this is going to be a giant series, so I have no idea how things are going to turn out, but as it stands right now, I do not like Adolin and Shallan together. I think one of the things about the relationship that is the worst is that I find them to enable things in one another that they shouldn't. Earlier, when they're in Shadesmar and Adolin is talking to Azure, and she's talking about how like, oh, you know, stepped down from rule, and Adolin is getting worked up about that, and he's like, sorry, it's kind of just something that my family instilled in me. I'm pretty passionate about doing what is your responsibility. And at the end, when Dalinar is telling him he's going to be king, he just tells his dad like, no, I don't want to be king. Shallan is comforting him. She's holding his hand and encouraging him to do this. And the fact that she kind of enabled Adolin to go ahead and walk away from this responsibility, that was what his passion was for normally. I also think that Shallan is really struggling with her mental health, seems to think that Adolin stabilizes her. And I was thinking like, no, you know who helped you was Hoid. With Adolin, she kind of talks about it in a passive way where it's like, sometimes I'm multiple people and it's hard to tell which one's me. Whereas with Hoid, she really opened up to him and he comforted her, and it's like, I could see the two of them together before I could see you and Adolin. So when she tells him that she has these other personas and she can't really figure out which one's her, and he's like, I love the real you, and it's like, you don't even know the real her. Another thing that makes me think that their relationship is not okay is the fact that one of the first times that Shallan has a moment with Kaladin when they're in the chasms in Words of Radiance, she tells him everything. With Adolin, she's never told him about that. And the fact that Shallan blames her feelings for Kaladin on Vale doesn't make any sense. She was, I feel like, thinking about him before that. There's that moment at the end of Words of Radiance when Adolin's talking and she's just like thinking about Kaladin, and she's like, whoops. Even Yasna calls her on it. She's like, you're not taking notes. I kind of need you to focus, and you're busy staring like at Kaladin. I don't necessarily think that her and Kaladin would have been a good match, but I feel like they were way more comparable than her and Adolin. When it matters, they call each other on the things that they need to be better. When she tells him like, why are you always such a jerk to Adolin? He's like, he calls me bridge boy, and then he kind of like, it's like, yeah man, he called her on her stuff, you know, he told her like, you're a light eyes, you just treat people like playthings. She's like, no I don't, and he's like, yes you do. What happened with the boots situation, that was just like a game to you. They're able to say that and then become better people as a result. All in all though, I do feel like there was this build-up, at least for me and a lot of other readers, that there was going to be a bigger deal made of this potential love triangle, and I'm glad that it didn't turn into a huge thing because I didn't want this dramatic falling out, but it just felt like it didn't even need to be a thing then. You know, Kaladin says like, oh well, her choice is made, and it's like, her choice, like, I don't think there was a choice really, because at what point did anybody make their feelings known? Adolin, out of nowhere, when they're in Shadesmar, is like, I see the way that she looks at him, and I see her drawings, and it's like, one, yes, that's a concern. That should be a huge concern. When she tells you later too, that's like, oh, Vale likes him, my first instinct would be like, well, let's get married in a week. I would have preferred if Kaladin's reaction at the end saying, oh, I never really loved her, she just reminded me of someone, if that could have been something in Words of Radiance. I am, of course, really curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Do you think that how everything was resolved was great? Do you wish things had been slightly different? And just beyond that, I am curious what you guys think of the book in general. I have a lot of questions that I'm curious about. I'm curious how Alethkar is going to handle Yasna being queen, because Azure couldn't even be a general without the soldiers playing mind tricks with themselves and trying to convince themselves that she was a guy. Another thing that I think is, I have no idea what's going to go down with this, is clearly Adolin still believes that his mother was killed as an assassination attempt. He has no idea that it's kind of Dalinar's fault. I'm also really curious what's going to happen with Venli's Spren. I'm curious what's going to happen with Adolin's, with Maya. And then Wit at the end? What the heck? And then of course there's Renarin's corrupted Spren. I'm really fascinated to hear about that, especially when Taravangian saw Renarin's name. Lots of thoughts, and I'm curious what you guys think. If you liked the video, of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the little bell icon to get notified when I post new videos, and check out some more of my videos right over here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.